Ever wondered why a piece of green paper holds so much power? The US dollar rules 60% of global reserves, despite having no gold backing since 1971. But this dominance isn't guaranteed forever. The US dollar wasn't always the king of global currencies. Its rise to power has a fascinating history that begins in the ashes of World War II. July 1944. Representatives from 44 Allied nations gathered at the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Their mission? To rebuild a war-torn global economy. The solution they crafted would change everything. Under the Bretton Woods Agreement, these countries agreed to peg their currencies to the US dollar, which in turn was backed by gold at 35 per ounce. Why choose America's currency? Simple. The United States held 2/3 of the world's gold reserves and emerged from the war with the strongest economy on the planet. This system worked smoothly for decades. The dollar became the foundation of international trade, with countries accumulating dollar reserves for stability. But by 1971, America faced a dilemma. Foreign governments were redeeming their dollars for gold, depleting US reserves. On August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon made a shocking announcement. America would no longer convert dollars to gold. This Nixon shock effectively ended the gold standard era. Yet even without gold backing, the dollar didn't collapse. Why? Because by then, the US dollar's value rested on something perhaps more powerful: global trust in America's economic might, military power, and extensive trade networks. Oil-producing nations agreed to price their valuable commodity exclusively in dollars, creating the petrodollar system that further cemented the currency's dominance. Even today, despite challenges from China's yuan and digital currencies, the dollar remains the backbone of the world economy. But how long will this invisible power continue to rule? That's the trillion-dollar question. Welcome to The Invisible Power: Why the US dollar rules the world economy. I'm here to unpack one of the most fascinating phenomena in global finance. The US dollar isn't just a piece of paper with presidents' faces. It's built on something intangible yet incredibly powerful: trust. Unlike currencies of the past backed by gold, today's dollar is essentially backed by global confidence in America's economic strength. This trust transforms simple printed paper into the world's most powerful financial tool. Let's look at the numbers. An astounding 59% of global reserves are held in US dollars. This reserve currency status means countries worldwide store their wealth in dollars and use it for international trade without needing multiple conversions. This privilege emerged after World War II with the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944. When America held the largest gold reserves and nations agreed to use the dollar as their standard. But what's truly fascinating is the network effect. The more countries and businesses that use the dollar, the more valuable and necessary it becomes, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. Like a social network that grows more useful with each new user, the dollar's dominance feeds itself. This system faces challenges today. China has reduced its US Treasury holdings to $1,759 billion by 2025, while digital currencies like Bitcoin offer alternatives to traditional money. So the question remains, in this rapidly changing world, how long will the dollar maintain its throne? What invisible forces might shift the balance of power in the global economy? Despite its long-standing dominance, the US dollar now faces unprecedented challenges from multiple fronts. First, we're witnessing a strategic shift from China, the world's second-largest economy. Since 2013, China has been steadily reducing its US Treasury holdings, which have declined to just $1,759 billion recently. This isn't merely a financial decision, but a calculated move as Beijing actively promotes the yuan in international trade agreements, creating currency swap lines with over 40 countries. The second major challenge comes from the digital revolution. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin have created the first viable alternative to government-issued money in centuries. Meanwhile, central bank digital currencies are gaining momentum, with China's digital yuan leading the way. These digital alternatives promise faster, cheaper transactions without relying on US-controlled financial infrastructure. Perhaps most significant is the coordinated de-dollarization effort among BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These emerging economies are establishing alternative payment systems, creating their own development bank, and increasingly trading in local currencies rather than dollars. As these nations represent over 40% of the global population, their shift away from the dollar could fundamentally reshape the international monetary system. The question remains, how long will the dollar maintain its global throne in this changing landscape? Have you ever wondered what invisible forces keep the US dollar at the center of global finance? Let's explore the powerful mechanisms that maintain the greenback's dominance. First is the petrodollar system, established through a historic 1974 agreement between the US and Saudi Arabia. This arrangement ensured that virtually all global oil transactions would be conducted exclusively in US dollars, creating an artificial but massive demand for the currency. Every nation needing oil, which is every nation, must first obtain dollars, essentially forcing the world to use America's currency. The second pillar is US Treasury bonds, widely considered the safest financial assets on the planet. When global uncertainty rises, investors worldwide flock to these securities, creating constant demand for dollars. The numbers are staggering. Japan holds approximately $1.1 trillion in US debt, while the UK holds about $1,615 billion. This international confidence effectively gives America the unique ability to borrow at lower costs than any other nation. Finally, the Federal Reserve's monetary policy wields enormous influence over global dollar value. Through careful management of interest rates and money supply, the Fed can stabilize or adjust the dollar's value, impacting economies worldwide. When the Fed raises rates, it attracts foreign investment seeking higher returns, strengthening the dollar further. This monetary authority extends America's economic power far beyond its borders. So what do you think? How long will the US dollar maintain its reign as the world's dominant currency? As we peer into the crystal ball, what does the future hold for the US dollar's global dominance? Despite mounting challenges, the dollar possesses remarkable resilience factors. America's deep, liquid financial markets remain unmatched globally. The strong rule of law provides certainty for investors, while the dollar's unparalleled liquidity advantages make it the go-to currency for international transactions. These foundations have kept the dollar relevant even as rivals emerge. Looking ahead, two scenarios are taking shape. In one future, we see a multipolar currency world where the dollar shares prominence with the Chinese yuan, the euro, and perhaps digital currencies. China's reduction of US Treasury holdings down to $1,759 billion by 2025 signals this shift. The alternative? Continued dollar dominance, adapting to new realities while maintaining its central role. But what does this mean for you? Regardless of where you live, changes in the dollar's status would affect global citizens through potential inflation shifts, altered purchasing power, and fluctuating investment values. Your savings, retirement plans, and even daily expenses could feel the impact of this invisible power realigning. As the dollar story continues to unfold, we're left with an essential question. How long will the US dollar maintain its throne in the world economy? The answer may depend on whether global trust in America's economic strength, the true foundation of dollar hegemony, remains intact. The US dollar isn't just current science, the foundation of global stability. Understanding its power gives you insight into the forces shaping our world economy. Has mob mentality shaped your decisions or community? Share your experiences in the comments below. Subscribe to RockVein for more insights into how historical patterns repeat in modern society. Hit that notification bell and follow the herd by missing our next upload.